I am Ramona, 32 years old, and until last month, I thought I had the most supportive family in America. My successful business allowed me to help them financially whenever needed. So when my sister Abigail got engaged, I planned a surprise visit home with an open checkbook and heart. Instead, I walked into a nightmare overhearing my own mother call me a stupid puppet while my entire family toasted to scamming me out of $15,000. Let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button to hear how I turned their betrayal into the ultimate life lesson. Growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania, I always believed family came first. My parents, Margaret and Richard, worked hard to provide for Abigail and me, though we never had much. Mom waited tables at the local diner while Dad worked as a mechanic. We lived modestly, but there was always love at our dinner table, or so I believed. I left home at 18, determined to make something of myself. While Abigail stayed local, married her high school sweetheart Kyle, and followed in Mom's footsteps as a waitress, I moved to California. Through sheer determination and countless sleepless nights, I built my marketing company from scratch. By 30, I had 20 employees and a beautiful waterfront home with a guest house in San Diego. Despite the distance, I remained close to my family, or at least I thought I did. I called home twice a week. Every Christmas, I flew back with gifts that became increasingly expensive as my income grew. Last year, I paid off my parents' mortgage as a surprise Christmas gift. When my cousin Brian needed money for college, I covered his tuition. When Aunt Linda needed dental work, I sent $5,000 without hesitation. My family always expressed gratitude, but looking back, I realize I never noticed the subtle eye rolls when I mentioned business success, or how conversation quickly shifted when I talked about my achievements. I was just happy to help the people I loved. Then came Abigail's engagement to Kyle. They had been dating since high school, and after 10 years together, he finally proposed. Abigail called me screaming with excitement. She talked about wanting a beautiful wedding but complained about their limited budget. I immediately offered to help. "Do not worry about money," I told her. "Your wedding day should be perfect." She cried and thanked me profusely. We spent hours on the phone discussing wedding plans. She mentioned wanting a waterfront ceremony, and I suggested using my place. My backyard overlooked the Pacific Ocean and could easily accommodate 100 guests. "That would be amazing," she said. "Are you sure it would not be too much trouble?" "Of course not," I assured her. "I would love to host your special day." After that conversation, weeks passed with frequent calls about wedding details. Abigail mentioned my parents were planning an engagement dinner, but when I offered to fly home for it, she insisted it was just immediate family and not worth the trip. "Save your visit for the wedding planning," she said. "We will need your help then." Something about her tone bothered me, but I dismissed it. Family would never take advantage of me, right? 2 months later, business unexpectedly brought me to Philadelphia, just a 2-hour drive from my hometown. I decided to surprise everyone by showing up at the engagement dinner Abigail had mentioned. I finished my meetings early and rented a car, excited to see the joy on their faces when I walked through the door. During the drive, I called my friend Diana, who had always been skeptical of my generosity toward my family. "They never visit you," she pointed out often, "and they only call when they need something." "They are busy," I always defended them, "and traveling is expensive." Diana sighed on the phone. "Just be careful, Ramona. Not everyone has your generous heart." I laughed off her concern. "They are my family. They would do the same for me." As I approached my hometown, nostalgia washed over me. I passed the high school where Abigail was homecoming queen, and I was the debate team captain. I drove by the diner where Mom still worked part-time. Everything looked smaller than I remembered, but comfortingly familiar. I stopped to pick up flowers and an expensive bottle of champagne for the celebration. I was genuinely happy for my sister and excited to surprise everyone. As I pulled into my parents' driveway, I noticed several cars I recognized: Aunt Linda's minivan, Cousin Jessica's sedan, and Uncle Paul's truck. This was clearly more than the immediate family-only dinner Abigail had described. Excitement bubbled within me. If everyone was already gathered, my surprise would be even better. I would finally see all the people I loved in one place without the stress of a holiday or funeral. I approached the house quietly, planning my entrance for maximum surprise. The spring evening was warm and the windows were open. Laughter drifted out into the twilight, the sound of my family enjoying themselves. I smiled, pausing near the living room window to hear what was happening before I made my entrance. That moment of hesitation changed everything. The scent of Mom's famous pot roast hung in the air as I approached the house. Cricket songs accompanied my footsteps up the familiar cracked concrete path where Dad had always promised to lay new pavers next summer. 10 years of next summers had come and gone without change. Some things never changed in my hometown, and that constancy had always been comforting. I adjusted the bouquet of pink lilies, Abigail's favorite flowers since childhood, and clutched the champagne bottle more securely. My heels sank slightly into the soft lawn as I cut across to reach the side of the house. I wanted to peek through the window first, to savor their gathered faces before revealing myself. The golden light from inside cast long rectangles onto the lawn. Through the window, I could see the dining room table extended to its full length, with the leaf Dad kept in the garage. The good china was out the set my grandmother had left to Mom, only used for special occasions. Crystal glasses sparkled in the light of the chandelier, another of my recent gifts to the family. Everyone was there, more people than Abigail had implied would attend. My parents sat at opposite ends of the table. Abigail and Kyle were side by side, her hand resting on his arm, the small diamond on her finger catching the light. Aunt Linda was there with Uncle Paul. My cousins Jessica and Brian sat across from each other, Jessica's husband Thomas beside her. Even my father's brother, Uncle James, and his wife, Aunt Patricia, had made the trip. They looked happy, laughing, and talking over each other the way we always had at family gatherings. Dad was pouring wine into everyone's glasses, making his way around the table. My heart swelled with love. These were my people, my roots. No matter how successful I became, this would always be home. I was about to step away from the window and head to the front door, when Mom's voice, louder than the others, made me pause. Wait, she said, raising her glass. Before Richard fills all our glasses, I want to make a toast. Everyone quieted down, turning toward her. I stayed frozen by the window, suddenly feeling like an intruder, but unable to move. To Abigail and Kyle, Mom began smiling at my sister, not just for their engagement, but for their brilliant idea to have the wedding at Ramona's house. Laughter rippled around the table. I frowned, confused by their reaction. What was funny about hosting the wedding at my place? And Mom continued, her voice, dropping to a conspiratorial tone that I had never heard before, to our Ramona, our little stupid puppet, always ready to open her wallet whenever we pull her strings. The blood in my veins turned to ice. I must have misheard. My mother would never say such a thing about me. But as raucous laughter erupted from everyone at the table, including my sister, I knew I had heard correctly. To stupid relatives with money, Dad added, raising his glass higher. To stupid relatives with money, everyone echoed, clinking glasses and laughing harder. My knees weakened and I leaned against the side of the house for support. This could not be happening. There had to be some explanation, some context I was missing. Perhaps it was an inside joke I did not understand. But their faces, illuminated by candlelight, showed no sign of affection or gentle teasing. They looked calculating, almost predatory. So the plan is set, Abigail said after taking a sip of wine. Ramona will fly in next month to look at her house as our venue. She already offered to pay for the catering and the dress. Did you ask about the honeymoon yet? Aunt Linda asked, cutting into her pot roast. Abigail shook her head. Not directly, but I have been dropping hints about Hawaii. She will offer. She always does. You should aim higher, Cousin Jessica suggested. Europe, maybe. Once you mention your dream destination, she will insist on paying. Works every time. Remember when she paid for my dental work? Aunt Linda chimed in, touching her perfect teeth. I used half that money for my cruise. She never even asked for receipts. My father laughed. Remember when she paid off our mortgage? I told her we were about to lose the house. Truth is, we had just refinanced the year before. Mom wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. And she actually believed us when we said we were so grateful we were speechless. Truth is, I was trying not to laugh in her face. Who falls for that? Ramona does, Kyle said, speaking for the first time. She is so desperate for family approval, she will believe anything. Exactly, Abigail agreed. Now, about the wedding. I think we can easily get $15,000 out of her for everything. Plus, using her house saves us venue costs. And we can all stay there for free, Cousin Brian added. Her guest house has 2 bedrooms. Dibs on one of them. No way, Jessica countered. Thomas and I are taking the guest house. You can sleep on her couch. Does she still have that home theater system? Uncle James asked. We could extend our stay a few days, make a vacation of it. She will not mind, Mom said dismissively. She is always begging us to visit. This way she gets her wish, and we get a free California vacation. And she gets an empty bank account, Kyle added to more laughter. I could not breathe. The flowers slipped from my grasp, falling silently onto the grass. I clutched the champagne bottle, like a lifeline, my knuckles white. My entire body trembled with shock, hurt, and a rapidly building rage. These people, my family, the ones I had supported and loved unconditionally, had been using me all along. Every tearful thank you, every grateful hug, I do not know what we would do without you. Ramona had been a calculated performance. And I, the successful businesswoman who prided herself on her sharp instincts, had fallen for it completely. I backed away from the window, careful not to make a sound. The last thing I wanted now was for them to discover me. I needed time to process this betrayal, to decide how to respond. One thing was certain: there would be no surprise entrance tonight, no joyful reunion. The only surprise would be what I planned to do next. I cannot believe how easy it is to manipulate Ramona, my mother, continued as I stood frozen outside the window. Remember last Christmas when she asked if we liked our gifts? I pretended to be disappointed with that cashmere sweater, and she immediately offered to exchange it. By the time she left, she had promised me a shopping spree instead. Classic Ramona, Aunt Linda laughed. Always trying to buy our love. As if we are for sale, Cousin Jessica added with a snort. Well, technically we are, Uncle Paul joked, but Ramona has not figured out the price keeps going up. Fresh laughter erupted around the table. I felt physically ill, bile rising in my throat as I continued to listen, unable to tear myself away from this nightmare. The best part about Ramona, Kyle said, helping himself to more wine, is that she never visits unannounced. We always have plenty of warning to get our stories straight. If they only knew I was standing mere feet away, hearing every word. Speaking of stories, Abigail chimed in, we need to finalize the wedding details. Ramona thinks we are having 60 guests, but I have already invited over 100. Will her house even fit that many people? Cousin Brian asked. Who cares? Abigail shrugged. It is her problem to figure out. She offered the venue, she can deal with the logistics. And if it does not work, Mom added, we will just guilt her into paying for a different venue. Either way, she foots the bill. Dad cleared his throat. I have been thinking. The wedding is still 6 months away. We should see if we can get more out of Ramona before then. Like what Abigail asked. Well, your car is getting old, Dad suggested. Maybe mention how worried you are about it breaking down on the way to dress fittings. Brilliant, Abigail nodded. I have been wanting a new SUV. And Richard, Mom turned to my father. Did not you say something about wanting to remodel the kitchen? Dad grinned. I was saving that for after the wedding, but you are right. No time like the present. I will tell Ramona the stove is dangerous and we cannot afford to replace it. You know what else we should do? Aunt Patricia spoke up. We should plan a big family vacation after the wedding. All of us. We can tell Ramona it is a family bonding experience she would not want to miss. And of course she would pay for everyone. Uncle James nodded approvingly. You guys are thinking too small, Kyle interjected. After we are married, Abigail and I are going to need a house. Why buy when Ramona can buy it for us? Abigail squealed with delight, throwing her arms around him. That is why I am marrying you. Your brain is as beautiful as your face. The conversation continued, each suggestion more outrageous than the last. They were not just planning to use me for the wedding. They were plotting years of financial exploitation. As I listened, specific memories resurfaced with painful clarity. Last Thanksgiving, when Cousin Brian had pulled me aside to tearfully confess he could not afford his textbooks, I had immediately transferred $2,000 to his account. Now I realized why he had been smirking when he hugged me in, thanks. 2 weeks later, he had posted photos of his spring break trip to Cancun on social media. And the time Aunt Linda had called about her dental emergency voice quavering with pain. I had sent money that same day, worried about her suffering. The following month, she had somehow afforded a 2-week cruise that she never mentioned to me. I had only discovered it through Abigail's photos online. Then there was Dad's medical scare last year, which required expensive tests not covered by insurance. I had paid those bills directly to what I thought was the hospital, only to realize now that the account probably belonged to him. My entire family had been scamming me for years, and I had been too trusting, too eager for their approval to notice. You know what Ramona said to me last week? Abigail continued pulling me back to the present. She said she was so happy to finally be able to give back to the family that had given her so much. Can you believe that? The table erupted in laughter again. What exactly did we give her? Dad asked between chuckles. Besides a guilt complex and low self-esteem. Hey, those are valuable life tools, Mom quipped. They have certainly worked in our favor. To be fair, Aunt Linda said, raising her glass again, we did give her something precious. What is that? Several voices asked. The belief that she belongs somewhere, Aunt Linda answered with mock sentimentality. That alone is worth at least another 10 grand. Do not you think? More laughter, more toasts, more plotting. Outside in the gathering darkness, tears streamed down my face. The champagne bottle slipped from my fingers, landing with a soft thud on the grass. Thankfully, it did not break. I could not move, could not think clearly. The voices from inside continued to wash over me, each word another dagger to my heart. There is one problem, Kyle said, his tone more serious. What if Ramona starts dating someone? A boyfriend might see what we are doing. Please, Abigail dismissed his concern. Ramona dating, she is married to her business. Besides, what man would want her? She is not exactly a catch. True, Jessica agreed. She has always been the plain one. Smart, sure, but no man cares about that when she looks like she does. This particular barb hurt in a different way. I had always been self-conscious about my appearance compared to my conventionally beautiful sister. Hearing my family confirm my deepest insecurities made me feel 16 again, awkward and unwanted. Enough about Ramona's love life or lack thereof, Mom interrupted. Let us focus on the wedding. I think we should suggest she hosts the rehearsal dinner at a restaurant near her house. Something upscale, since she is always trying to impress us with how well she is doing. Perfect, Abigail clapped her hands. And we will need hotel rooms for everyone for at least 3 nights. Why stop at 3? Brian suggested. Tell her the wedding party needs to arrive early for fittings and preparations. We could stretch it to a week. Now you are thinking, Dad approved. As the conversation shifted to more detailed wedding plans, all at my expense, something inside me hardened. The initial shock and hurt began to crystallize into cold, clear anger. These people were not my loving family. They were predators, and I had been their willing prey. But no more. I took one last look through the window at their laughing faces, committing the scene to memory. Then I quietly retrieved the fallen champagne and flowers and made my way back to my rental car. As I drove away from my childhood home, I realized Diana had been right all along. My family had been using me for years. Every call, every tearful request, every expression of gratitude had been part of an elaborate con. The question now was, what was I going to do about it? The drive back to my hotel passed in a blur. I barely registered the familiar landmarks of my hometown places that had once held warm memories, but now seemed tainted. The champagne bottle sat in the passenger seat, the flowers tossed in the back petals already beginning to drop like my shattered illusions. I pulled into the hotel parking lot and cut the engine, but could not bring myself to move. For several minutes I sat in silence, hands still gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. When I finally let go, my palms bore red indentations from the pressure. The hotel room door closed behind me with a hollow click. I kicked off my shoes mechanically and sat on the edge of the bed staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with a text message. Abigail. Just checking in, sis. Cannot wait to see you next month for venue planning. Love you so much. The phone slipped from my fingers onto the carpet. The calculated cheerfulness of her message, knowing what I now knew, made me physically nauseous. I barely made it to the bathroom before emptying the contents of my stomach. Afterward, I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection. "Stupid puppet," I whispered, my mother's words echoing in my mind. The woman in the mirror looked pale and shell-shocked eyes red, rimmed, and hollow. Was that really how they saw me? Just a bank account with legs? A pathetic, desperate woman so starved for family connection that she would pay any price for crumbs of affection. The worst part was they were right. I had been exactly that. I returned to the bed and curled into a fetal position, hugging my knees to my chest. For the first time since my grandmother's funeral 10 years ago, I sobbed openly, ugly, guttural cries that hurt my throat and made it difficult to breathe. Hours seemed to pass this way, cycling through tears, rage, and a deep, aching emptiness. Around 3 in the morning, exhausted but unable to sleep, I reached for my phone and called the one person I could trust. Ramona Diana's voice was thick with sleep. "It is the middle of the night. Is everything okay?" No, I managed my voice, barely a whisper. "Nothing is okay." "What happened? Are you hurt? Where are you?" "Pennsylvania. I came to surprise my family." My voice caught on the word family. "Diana, you were right about them. All along." "Oh, Ramona," she said softly. "Tell me everything." And so I did, recounting every painful detail of what I had overheard. Diana listened without interrupting, occasionally making sounds of outrage or sympathy. "Those absolute monsters," she said when I finished. "I knew they were using you, but this is beyond anything I imagined." "I feel so stupid," I admitted, "so blind." "No," Diana said firmly. "You are not stupid. You are loving and generous, and they took advantage of that. They are the ones who should be ashamed, not you." "What do I do now?" I asked, feeling lost. "Well, what do you want to do? You could confront them directly." I considered this briefly. No, not yet. They would just deny everything, make excuses, tell me I misunderstood. "You are probably right," Diana agreed. "They have been gaslighting you for years. Why stop now?" We talked for another hour, my initial shock gradually giving way to clarity. By the time we hung up, the first light of dawn was seeping through the hotel curtains, and the outline of a plan had begun to form in my mind. I showered and changed, then checked out of the hotel. My business meetings in Philadelphia were scheduled for the next 2 days, but I sent emails rescheduling them for the following week. This situation required my full attention. During the drive back to Philadelphia to catch my flight home, I began to recall other instances of my family's manipulation with new clarity. The time Dad had called about the roof leaking, how he had emphasized they were using buckets to catch the water. I had sent $10,000 only to see no evidence of roof work when I visited months later. When I asked about it, he claimed they had done patch repairs that were not visible from the outside. Or the graduation gift I had given Brian, a laptop he had specifically requested for his graphic design courses. 3 months later, he was complaining about needing design software with no mention of the laptop. Had he sold it immediately? Even small things now seemed suspicious. Mom's frequent comments about her friends taking luxury cruises or shopping trips, always followed by sighs about how she and Dad could never afford such things. Each time I had offered to treat them, unable to bear her obvious envy. Every memory I revisited revealed another manipulation, another lie, another instance where I had been their willing ATM. The revelation was both painful and liberating. At least now I knew the truth. By the time I boarded my flight to San Diego, hurt had largely given way to cold determination. If my family wanted to play games, they would soon learn I could play too, and unlike them, I would not be playing to lose. My flight landed in San Diego just after noon. Instead of heading home, I drove straight to my office, needing the comfort of familiar surroundings and the sense of competence I always felt there. As the founder and CEO of a marketing firm that specialized in crisis management, I had built my career on strategic thinking and problem solving. It was time to apply those skills to my personal life. I closed my office door, pulled out a legal pad, and began making lists. First, I documented everything I had overheard, all the plans my family had made to exploit me. Then, I listed every instance I could remember of past financial manipulation. The second list spread to multiple pages going back years. The total amount I had given them when calculated made me physically recoil. over $200,000 in the past 5 years alone. Next, I created an inventory of what they expected from me for the upcoming wedding one. My house as the venue 2. Guest accommodations for the wedding party and extended family 3. Catering for 100 plus guests 4. Abigail's wedding dress and bridesmaids' dresses 5. Rehearsal dinner at an upscale restaurant 6. $15,000 in miscellaneous expenses 7. A honeymoon to Hawaii or Europe 8. Potentially a new car for Abigail 9. Possibly a house for the newlyweds in the future. The audacity was breathtaking. If I had not heard them discussing it, I would never have believed they expected so much. My phone buzzed with a text from Abigail. Hey sis, just wanted to double check that May 15th still works for you to scope out the venue setup. Cannot wait to see your beautiful house and plan my perfect day. I stared at the message, noting the excessive exclamation points and saccharine tone. How had I never noticed how fake she sounded? For now, I decided not to respond. Let her wonder about my silence for a while. Instead, I called Diana. How are you holding up? She asked immediately. Better, I said. I am in planning mode now. That sounds like the Ramona I know, Diana said approvingly. So what is the plan? I am still working on it, but I know I do not want a direct confrontation, at least not yet. They would just deny everything and make me out to be the villain for eavesdropping. True, Diana agreed. They have got years of practice manipulating you. A confrontation plays to their strengths. Exactly. I need to be strategic. I tapped my pen against the legal pad. They are counting on using my house, staying there, having the wedding there. That is my leverage. Are you thinking of refusing to host the wedding? Not exactly, I said, slowly, an idea taking shape. I am thinking of letting them believe everything is proceeding as planned, right up until the moment they realize it is not. I like where this is going, Diana said. What did you have in mind? I outlined my emerging plan. I would pretend to be oblivious to their scheme, continuing to communicate as if nothing had changed. I would confirm the May 15th date for them to visit my house for venue planning. Meanwhile, I would prepare a surprise of my own. I need to make some calls, I told Diana. Can you come over to my house tonight? I could use your support while I set things in motion. Of course, she promised. What are best friends for, if not helping with revenge against manipulative family members? After hanging up, I made a list of calls to make one. A locksmith to change all the locks on my house and gate 2. A security company to install cameras 3. My lawyer to understand my rights regarding uninvited guests 4. A catering company to provide a quote for Abigail's wedding. The last item might seem strange, but I needed documentation of the actual cost to contrast with what my family was attempting to extract from me. I spent the next several hours making these calls. The locksmith could come tomorrow morning. The security company could install cameras by the end of the week. My lawyer confirmed that I had every right to deny entry to my property, even to family members. The catering company emailed a detailed quote for a 100-person wedding, $7,000 for a premium package. Far less than the $15,000 my family was planning to scam from me. By the time Diana arrived that evening with takeout and wine, I had the framework of a plan. So walk me through this, she said as we sat on my deck overlooking the ocean, the very spot where Abigail had planned to say her vows at my expense. It is simple, I explained. I am going to let them think everything is proceeding as planned. I will even encourage them to come out early to prepare the venue. Meanwhile, I will change all the locks, install security cameras, and be ready to record their reaction when they arrive to find themselves locked out. And then what Diana asked, you will just leave them standing outside. No, I smiled for the first time since overhearing their conversation. I will be waiting inside watching through the security cameras. Once they have had sufficient time to panic, I will confront them with what I overheard. That is deliciously evil, Diana approved. But what about afterward? Will you still help with the wedding? I took a sip of wine considering the question. No, I finally decided. That bridge is burned. But I need to make sure they understand why. I want them to feel the same shock and betrayal I felt. They deserve it, Diana nodded, all of them. Over the next few days, I put my plan into action. The locksmith changed every lock on my property. The security company installed discrete cameras covering all entrances. I even had the code to my gate changed and the remote controls reprogrammed. Meanwhile, I maintained sporadic, seemingly normal communication with my family. I finally responded to Abigail's text with May 15th works perfectly. So excited to help plan your special day. She immediately replied, "You are the best sister ever, cannot wait, planning to bring Mom, Dad, Kyle, and the bridesmaids to help visualize everything. Is that okay?" "Absolutely," I wrote back. "The more the merrier. My house is your house." The irony of that last statement was not lost on me. More texts followed over the next few days. Abigail asked if they could stay at my place to get the full experience. I agreed enthusiastically. Mom called to discuss catering options, subtly probing to confirm I would be covering all costs. I played along perfectly. "Money is no object for my sister's special day," I assured her. "Oh, Ramona," Mom gushed, "you are too generous. We are so blessed to have you in our lives." The performance was Oscar-worthy on both sides. The difference was only one of us knew it was a performance. As May 15th approached, I prepared my house for their visit. I made up the guest bedrooms with fresh linens. I stocked the refrigerator with their favorite foods and beverages. To anyone looking, it would appear I was eagerly awaiting their arrival. Only the new locks and discreet cameras hinted at my true intentions. The night before their scheduled arrival, I received a group text from Abigail. "Cannot sleep, I am so excited. Flight lands at 11 a.m. Cannot wait to see you and your beautiful house tomorrow. This wedding is going to be amazing thanks to you." I texted back a row of heart emojis, then turned to Diana, who was staying with me for moral support. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" she asked. I took a deep breath, feeling surprisingly calm. Yes. For the first time in my life, I am going to show my family exactly who I am. Not the puppet they think they can manipulate, but a woman who knows her worth. "I am proud of you," Diana said, squeezing my hand. "No matter what happens tomorrow, remember that you deserve better than what they have given you." I nodded, gazing out at the moonlight, reflecting off the Pacific. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight, I was at peace with my decision. The puppet had seen her strings, and she was about to cut them once and for all. The morning of May 15th dawned clear and perfect, as if the universe approved of my plans. I woke early, a strange calm settling over me. Today was the day my family would learn that their stupid puppet had found her voice. Diana and I shared a quiet breakfast on the deck. "Nervous?" she asked, buttering her toast. "Surprisingly, no," I replied. "I feel more certain about this than anything I have done in years." "Good," she nodded. "Because I think I hear a car." We both looked toward the security tablet I had set up on the table. Sure enough, a taxi was approaching the gate. 3 hours earlier than expected. "They are early," I frowned, checking the time. Their flight was not supposed to land until 11. "They probably took an earlier flight," Diana suggested, "eager to start scamming you as soon as possible." I zoomed in on the camera feed. Mom, Dad, and Abigail were emerging from the taxi, luggage in tow. No sign of Kyle or the bridesmaids yet. "Time to disappear," Diana said, gathering our breakfast dishes. "I will be in the guest house if you need moral support." I nodded gratefully. Diana had agreed to stay out of sight during the confrontation, giving me space to handle my family on my own terms. As Diana slipped out to the guest house, I watched my family approach the gate on the security feed. They were dressed casually, but, well, clearly having made an effort to look appropriate for what they thought would be an affluent neighborhood scrutiny. Mom was wearing the designer sunglasses I had given her last Christmas. Abigail pressed the intercom button at the gate. I could have answered, but instead I let them wait. After a minute, she pressed it again, longer this time. "That is weird," I heard her say through the camera's microphone. "Ramona knew we were coming today." "Try calling her," Mom suggested, looking impatient. Abigail pulled out her phone and dialed. I watched my screen light up with her call, but did not answer. After 6 rings, it went to voicemail. "She is not picking up," Abigail reported, a note of annoyance in her voice. I specifically told her what time our flight landed. "Did you try the gate code she gave us last time we visited?" Dad asked. My lips curved into a small smile. The code had been changed yesterday. Abigail punched in the old code. Nothing happened. She tried again more slowly. Still nothing. It is not working, she said, frustration evident. What is going on? Maybe she changed it and forgot to tell us, Mom suggested. That would be just like Ramona absent-minded about practical details. The casual dismissal of my intelligence stoked my resolve. They had underestimated me for the last time. Abigail tried calling me again. Again, I let it go to voicemail. Their body language was changing now, frustration giving way to genuine concern. This is not like Ramona, Dad said, glancing at his watch. She is usually so eager to please. The contempt in his voice made my skin crawl. Let me try texting her, Abigail said, typing rapidly. Maybe she is in the shower or something. My phone buzzed with her message. We are at your gate. Early surprise. Gate code not working. Can you let us in? I considered my response carefully, then typed. So, sorry, in a last-minute meeting downtown. We'll be home in about an hour. There is a cafe 2 blocks west where you can wait. See you soon. I watched their reactions as they read my message. Annoyance flashed across all 3 faces. Downtown meeting. Today of all days, Abigail fumed. She knew we were coming. Calm down, Mom said, though she looked equally irritated. At least she will be back soon. Let us find this cafe and wait. They gathered their luggage and began walking west, presumably toward the cafe I had mentioned. As soon as they were out of camera range, I texted Diana phase 1 complete. They took the bait. Now we wait. Over the next hour, Abigail sent several texts asking for updates. I responded sporadically, apologizing profusely for the delay and promising I was almost done with my meeting. Each message was designed to string them along without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, I tracked their movements through occasional glimpses on my neighborhood's security cameras. They had found the cafe and were sitting at an outdoor table, luggage clustered around them, expressions growing increasingly annoyed. At the 90-minute mark, Kyle arrived with Jessica and her husband Thomas. I watched them join my parents and Abigail at the cafe through the security feed from a nearby business that Diana had helped me access. Abigail appeared to be explaining the situation, gesticulating wildly, while Kyle patted her arm in a show of support that seemed half-hearted even from a distance. 2 hours after their initial arrival, I finally texted. So sorry for the delay. Heading home now. Be there in 15 minutes. Their relief was visible even through the distant camera feed. They gathered their belongings and began the walk back to my gate. Their earlier annoyance, seemingly forgotten in anticipation of finally beginning their free vacation and wedding scam. I positioned myself in my home office where I had the best view of the security monitors. From here, I could see them approach the gate without being visible from outside. They are coming back, I texted Diana. Get ready for phase 2. I am ready, she replied. Stay strong. Remember why you are doing this. As my family approached the gate again, I could see they had collected quite a group. In addition to my parents, Abigail, Kyle, Jessica, and Thomas' Aunt Linda and Uncle Paul had arrived along with Cousin Brian. They were laughing and chatting completely at ease, as if my home was already theirs to command. Abigail reached the intercom first and pressed the button. This time I answered. Hello, I said, injecting warmth into my voice. Ramona, finally, Abigail exclaimed. We have been waiting forever. Can you open the gate? Of course, I replied. I will be right there. I disconnected the intercom but did not open the gate. Instead, I watched as they waited expectantly, their expressions gradually shifting from anticipation to confusion. As minutes passed and the gate remained closed, Abigail pressed the intercom again. Ramona? The gate is still closed. Is it? I asked, innocently. Let me check the system. Sometimes it glitches. More waiting. More confusion. Finally, Dad stepped forward and pressed the intercom. Ramona, he said, his voice tight with barely contained irritation, we have been traveling all day. Could you please open the gate now? I am trying, I assured him. The system must be malfunctioning. Why do not you try the side entrance? The small gate by the rose garden. It is manual, not electronic. This was another lie. The side gate had also been equipped with a new lock yesterday. I watched as they gathered their luggage and trudged around the perimeter of my property to the side gate, complaining among themselves about the inconvenience. When they reached it, Abigail tried the handle only to find it locked as well. Back to the intercom they went. This time Mom pressed the button, her movements sharp with frustration. "Ramona," she said, forcing pleasantness into her voice, "the side gate is locked too. Can you come out and let us in, please?" "That is strange," I replied. "Let me grab the keys and come right out." But I did not move from my office. Instead, I watched as they waited, shifting impatiently, checking their watches, exchanging increasingly irritated glances. After 10 more minutes, Abigail called my phone directly. This time I answered. "Where are you?" she demanded, skipping any greeting. "We have been standing outside your gate for ages." "I am so sorry," I said, my voice a study in contrition. "I got an emergency call from work. I am trying to resolve it as quickly as possible." "Ramona, this is ridiculous," she snapped. "We have been traveling all day. We are tired and hungry. Just open the gate and deal with your work emergency inside." "You are right," I agreed. "That makes more sense. I will be right there." But still, I did not move. Through the cameras, I watched as Abigail relayed this information to the others. Their body language spoke volumes, crossed arms, agitated pacing heads thrown back in exasperation. After another 15 minutes, Dad tried calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom. Then Abigail again. I ignored them all. Finally, I saw them gather in a tight circle, clearly discussing their options. The conversation appeared heated, with much gesturing toward my house and checking of watches. At last, Dad pulled out his phone and appeared to be searching for something, probably local hotels. Only then did I decide it was time for the final phase. I texted Diana, "Going out now, wish me luck." "You do not need luck," she replied. "You have truth on your side." I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked out my front door, ready to confront the people who had seen me as nothing but a puppet for far too long. As I approached the gate, I schooled my features into an expression of innocent concern. My family's faces lit up with relief when they saw me, quickly followed by annoyance. "Finally," Abigail exclaimed. "What took you so long? We have been waiting for hours." "I am so sorry," I said, stopping several feet from the gate, making no move to open it. There was an unexpected situation I had to deal with. "Well, we are here now," Mom said impatiently. "Can you open the gate so we can settle in? It has been a very long day." I tilted my head, studying them as if seeing them for the first time. In a way, I was. "Before I do that, I have a question. What exactly are you all doing here?" They exchanged confused glances. "What do you mean?" Dad asked. "We are here to plan Abigail's wedding. You offered your house as the venue, remember?" "Right," I nodded slowly. "And how many of you were actually invited for this planning session?" More confused looks. "All of us, of course," Aunt Linda said. "We are family. We all want to help make Abigail's day special." "I see," I said. "And was the plan always for all of you to stay here in my house while you help plan?" "You offered," Abigail said defensively. "You said your house was our house." "Did I?" I raised an eyebrow. "That was generous of me. Tell me, what else was I planning to offer for your wedding?" A heavy silence fell. They were beginning to sense something was wrong, but could not quite identify what. "Ramona, what is going on?" Mom finally asked. "Why are you acting so strange?" "Strange," I echoed. "I do not think I am the one acting strange. I think what is strange is having my entire family show up at my door expecting free accommodation, a free wedding venue, and $15,000 in wedding expenses. Do not you think that is strange?" Their faces froze. Kyle was the first to recover. $15,000? He laughed nervously. "Where did you get that figure? We never asked for that much money." "Not directly," I agreed. But that was the plan, was not it? Along with a Hawaiian honeymoon, possibly a new car for Abigail, and eventually maybe even a house. That is quite a wedding gift. The blood drained from Abigail's face. "How did you?" "No, I finished for her." "That is an interesting story. You see, I was in Philadelphia for business last month, around the time of your engagement dinner. The one you told me was just immediate family and not worth my flying in for." Understanding dawned in their eyes, followed quickly by panic. "I decided to surprise you anyway. I continued, my voice steady, despite the emotion churning inside me. I arrived just in time to hear Mom's toast. What was it again? Oh yes. To our Ramona, our little stupid puppet, always ready to open her wallet whenever we pull her strings. The silence was absolute. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. And then Dad's follow-up, to stupid relatives with money. That was particularly memorable. Everyone seemed to find it hilarious. Even you, Abigail. My dear sister who I have always supported without question. Ramona Mom began, her voice trembling. You misunderstood. It was just a joke. A joke, I repeated flatly. Was it also a joke when you discussed how to manipulate me into paying for a European honeymoon instead of Hawaii? Or when Dad mentioned asking me to pay for your kitchen remodel by claiming the stove was dangerous? Or when Aunt Linda bragged about using the money I sent for dental work to go on a cruise instead? Aunt Linda had the grace to look ashamed, though she remained silent. Ramona, please, Dad tried. We were just talking nonsense after a few drinks. We did not mean any of it. Really, I pulled out my phone. So if I play the recording I made that night, it will clearly sound like drunken nonsense that no one meant. There was no recording, of course. I had been too shocked to think of recording them. But they did not know that. You recorded us, Abigail whispered, horrified. Of course I did, I lied smoothly. I am a businesswoman. I document everything. It is a habit. That is illegal, Kyle protested. You cannot record people without their consent. Actually, Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state for recordings, I acknowledged, but this was not a recording, it was a video. Of a public gathering visible from the street, perfectly legal. More lies, but effective ones. They were crumbling before my eyes. The question now, I continued, is what happens next? Ramona, please. Mom stepped forward, tears welling in her eyes. We are your family. We love you. Whatever you think you heard, it was not what it seemed. That is interesting, I said, because what it seemed like was my entire family plotting to take advantage of me financially while mocking me behind my back. It seemed like years of manipulation and lies. It seemed like every expression of gratitude, every tearful thank you, every we do not know what we would do without you, Ramona, was calculated performance to keep the money flowing. No one spoke. No one could meet my eyes. So here is what happens next, I said, my voice calm and measured. You will all find hotels for your stay in San Diego. You will make new wedding plans that do not involve my home or my money. And you will do some serious soul-searching about what kind of people you want to be. You cannot be serious. Abigail finally found her voice. After everything we have been through as a family, you would abandon me before my wedding because of one stupid conversation you overheard? It was not one conversation, Abigail, I said softly. It was a revelation of a pattern that has existed for years. A pattern I was too trusting to see, but I see it now and I cannot unsee it. So, that is it, Dad demanded. You are just cutting us off your own family. I am setting boundaries, I corrected him. Something I should have done long ago. Whether those boundaries mean cutting you off completely or establishing a new kind of relationship depends entirely on you. What is that supposed to mean, Mom asked. It means I am done being the family ATM. I am done being manipulated and mocked. I am done being the stupid puppet whose strings you pull whenever you need money. If you want a relationship with me moving forward, it will be based on mutual respect and genuine affection, not financial exploitation. I looked at each of them in turn, these people who shared my blood but had betrayed my trust so completely. The choice is yours, I said finally. I suggest you discuss it at your hotels. I have already texted you a list of nearby options. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a life to live, one that is no longer defined by how useful I can be to all of you. With that, I turned and walked back to my house, ignoring the chorus of protests behind me. Once inside, I locked the door and leaned against it, tears streaming down my face despite my resolve to stay strong. Diana emerged from where she had been listening. You were amazing, she said, wrapping me in a tight hug. Absolutely amazing. Through the security cameras, we watched as my family gradually dispersed, calling taxis and ride shares their body language, a study in defeat and disbelief. No one looked back at my house. No one tried the intercom again. The days that followed were difficult but clarifying. As expected, my phone exploded with calls and texts, ranging from angry accusations to tearful apologies. I responded to none of them, needing time and space to process the seismic shift in my understanding of my family relationships. After a week, I drafted a careful email and sent it to everyone involved in the incident. In it, I explained exactly what I had heard, how it had made me feel, and what I needed moving forward if they wanted to maintain a relationship with me. The responses were varied and telling. Dad sent a terse reply claiming I had blown everything out of proportion, but not actually denying anything. Mom wrote a long emotional email full of excuses and guilt trips, but short on genuine accountability. Abigail surprisingly sent a thoughtful message acknowledging the hurt she had caused and asking for a chance to make amends, though she still wanted financial help with a scaled-back wedding. Aunt Linda and Uncle Paul sent sincere apologies acknowledging their behavior had been shameful. Cousin Brian did not respond at all. Cousin Jessica sent a defensive message accusing me of always thinking I was better than everyone else. In the months that followed, I maintained minimal contact with most of my family while establishing clear boundaries around money. Some relationships improved with this new foundation of honesty. Others withered in the absence of financial incentive. Both outcomes were painful but necessary. Abigail ended up having a small wedding at a local park. I attended as a guest, not a bank. I gave her a modest but thoughtful gift and wished her genuine happiness. Our relationship remains a work in progress, but at least now it is based on truth. The experience taught me lessons I will never forget. Trust must be earned, not automatically granted even to family. Generosity should come from love, not obligation or guilt. And most importantly, no one can make you feel like a puppet unless you give them the strings. Today, my relationship with money and giving has been transformed. I still support causes and people I care about, but I do so mindfully without seeking approval or fearing rejection if I decline. I have redirected much of my giving to charitable organizations where it can make a meaningful difference without tangling me in unhealthy dynamics. The journey from betrayal to boundary setting was difficult but ultimately freeing. In losing the family I thought I had, I gained something more valuable: self-respect and authentic connections based on mutual care rather than financial advantage. If you have ever found yourself being taken advantage of by loved ones, remember that setting boundaries is not selfish, it is self-care. Real love does not come with price tags, expectations, or strings attached. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe to my channel and share with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your worth is never measured by what you can give others, but by what you know to be true about yourself.